It's Tony and Chris back again.
Hello.
Pump House Podcast. Excited about this guest. We've known this guy many, many years, and I have to bring it up because I do it every time. My youngest daughter was in his video for Lover Lover.
That's right.
Which is really exciting for us. Jerrod Niemann in the house. What's up, bro?
It's good to see you guys. I feel like we just time traveled back to a different dimension.
It's kind of weird.
We've had some pretty crazy moments.
That's true.
And we traveled some pretty crazy places together.
Yeah. I can seem to remember.
The Virgin Islands.
Mm-hmm. Virgin Islands, yeah. Aquapalooza was a good day.
We saw Pat Green fall off a stage.
Yeah.
And that was the night I think Pat goes, he's like, you introduced me, Chris. He goes, tonight you better introduce me as 3-time Grammy nominee. And don't you forget. And I was like, okay. And he reminded me like 10 times. And I went up and introduced him as 3-time Grammy loser.
Yeah. I remember that, yeah. We drank all those shots on the boat on the way over that little island, and then he was asleep in the sand before the show with the sun out. Yeah, that was crazy. And then I saw another picture I didn't remember. I was tackling some local wrestling. I was like,
Thank God we all got started before social media.
Yeah.
Because there's no telling what would be. We would have been canceled before we could have got started, probably.
Well, I think back, talking about tackling, when we used to have a golf tournament, and this is when we were still in San Diego, and we were playing the tournament that day, and we were up in the clubhouse, and we looked out the window, and there were two guys wrestling around out on the 9th hole on the green. And we're like, what is going on? Somebody's in a fight at our golf tournament. This is for St. Jude. We got guys out here. So we talk about it on the air the next day. We're like, hey, does anybody know who that was? What's going on? We think Trace Adkins was involved. And some guy calls in and goes, dude, I think that was me. I got home and I had grass stains all over my clothes, but I was so hammered I don't remember. I think Trace Adkins and I got into it, though.
That's not who you want to get into it with.
Yeah, right?
They're smaller country artists to tangle with.
Yeah, fight the Mark Chestnuts of the world.
Along this, the story about Trace and another artist, I won't say his name to humiliate him about that. He's 6 feet tall, that's why.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about you, man. You are one of those guys. You're so talented. You're producing, songwriting, singing. You stay busy doing so many things. What's the latest? We know you've been working with Lee some.
Yeah, we started working with Allie Colleen, Garth's daughter, and she's really talented. And she just had asked us to record some songs, and I just had a blast. So we were in Alaska, and he's like, "Hell, why don't we just do my album?" And I was like, "Oh God, I don't want to screw you up," But it's been so fun. He'll call and say, "Can you come in at 11 p.m.?" So we had a blast over the last year just trying to come up with something that matters. And Lee's put out such great songs. That's the biggest obstacle is he's got so many songs.
Right.
And I'll be like, "When did you write that?" He's like, "Oh, I wrote 3 of them yesterday."
You like producing?
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I always did my own albums, but I didn't know. I didn't expect to work with anybody else. So it's been pretty crazy just to.
Now, is there more to it? Because I'm friends with Frank Liddell, and I told him one night, I assume this is all it is. Every time someone does a take, you go, and then you look at the engineer, and the engineer goes, "Got it." And you're like, "It's a good one." Is there more to it than that?
Well, yeah, it's changed so much. There's a lot of pre-production. Because for me, if you get in here with 6 musicians all at once, that's a lot to juggle because those guys could just do it. But there are, a lot of dynamics and things like that you really need in the song, so it just doesn't lay there flat. So Lee and I will actually create a version before we bring in a band to kind of already map out what we want. It's been real fun to do that, and that's what's cool is you're kind of like the director, but of audio, and but those guys in Nashville, they're the best in the world. So there's some people that can't even play a bar chord on a guitar that have had hits as producers, but I think if you really want to take the time to make sure every note matters, we probably spend more time on it than we should, but it's just we're having so much fun. I really have learned a lot during our lockdown. I bought this old Hawaiian guitar, and it's really like the old C6 lap steel, and I thought I won't be able to play it, but for some reason, by the grace of God, I could play Walking After Midnight the first day, and I thought, well, if God's going to throw me a bone, I'm going to fetch. And so I worked really hard on that, and then bought a pedal steel guitar, the ones that's, it derived from, because it started out as a resonator in Hawaii, then the lap steel for all the old vintage country stuff, and then it evolved into the E9th with the pedals and the knee levers, and it's just like a crazy instrument, but it's just, you just sit with Mary Jane, take lessons from Mary Jane.
she's a mind opener. She's a mind opener.
Sweet girl.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah. So talking about, just picking up that instrument and learning, teaching yourself when you have that skill set, are there other things out there that you've thought about trying and you just haven't yet? Are there instruments maybe you tried to pick up and learn that you couldn't play? I'm
sure. I mean, well, the weird thing is I'm left-handed, so always playing guitar. I play it like a right-hander, but my coordination of my right hand some days it's just not as good as other. It's bizarre. So with the steel, it's just I don't know what it is about being able to see it and turn up your hands. My brain is programmed differently with that. So I don't know. But you know, started out playing piano when I was younger, and then guitar and bass and stuff. But that instrument just I don't know. 10 times better at the steel than any of those.
I just don't see how a steel guitar has a place in country music
these days.
Man, it's you know, it is sad to see like the fiddle and steel kind of diminish, but they're coming back.
Yes.
It's coming back, and I can't wait. You know, it's just staple deserves to be there, and that's what sucks with some of these great musicians. You know, they're not getting to go to sessions all day every day like they used to, and there's some of my favorite people in town. So, but that being said, I've learned a lot. But when you sit down with one of the greats in town, you're still mesmerized. Like, wow, I wish I could hire him for some lessons or something.
How do they get the sound of that? Some of those guys probably love that, though.
I mentioned it to one of them the other day, and he's like, "Oh, you know, so I didn't think he cared much.
Well, I just think he probably didn't want to share his secrets. Yeah, if I tell you how to do this,
he's got a lot of them. But yeah, so it's been cool because Lee will say, "I want you to play on it," and I'm like, "Dude, there's, Paul Franklin Jr. and Mike Johnson and some of these guys," and he's like, "Just try," So that means a lot for him to put his faith in me, and it makes you want to get better. And so one of these days, maybe we'll get together and steel guitar some stuff.
Yeah, as a producer, awesome. Is it hard to, like, if you have to give direction to an artist, that not just Lee, but I mean, when an artist is out there, I mean, they got egos, and if you're like, yeah, I don't think you're hitting it right, or are they pretty cool?
I think it's just the approach, because since, I've been fortunate enough to put songs out and stuff, I know it kind of rubbed me wrong over the years. So it's just the approach, and also Lee really knows, like, he really knows what he wants, so it's a little different. I'm just trying to be there to be like, hey, man, don't forget about this, and remember this song you put out this years ago, how cool it was when you did this, and just try to be that extra voice. But some artists, the newer ones, they don't know. I mean, you've got to do it. You've got to be there for them, because that's what your job is, and they're kind of maybe done more than just play and sing on stage. So there's another artist named Justin Holmes. Do you know the Country Rebel guys?
Yes.
Great guys. So they've decided to work the artist, and he's a veteran, really talented, wrote all the songs by himself. And I said, I want you in the studio so we can talk you through some of this stuff, because he's got a great ear. And he's already came a long way just by picking it up by being in here. His stuff in Lee's studio too. So he's really good. Can't wait for you to hear him.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's one thing with the newer guys, or the guys that need the help that you're offering. It's great probably because I'm sure feel totally comfortable. It's like I can push this kid to do anything. I can talk to anything. Have there been any issues? And I asked this question because you guys have been friends a long time. Chris and I have worked together, been friends for 30 years. Have you ever had any bumping of heads? Has there ever been beyond just I don't think that's right?
If it's Lee's album, he gets the final say because it's his music, and I don't want to push him in a direction where he all of a sudden doesn't like the song anymore because of my ideas or something. So I just really pay attention, because when we first started working together, since we had been buddies for so long, we already had a just trust of being buddies and friends and just taking on the world together. And so getting in the studio, I just really paid attention to the way he preferred things, because that's another thing I had to get around, was how would I do something. Doesn't mean it's the right way, So it's just how would Lee do it. And so it's been really cool to just spend, like I said, endless nights seeing his preferences and things like that. And really, I don't know if he even needs anybody else in the studio. He's so good. But I've learned a lot, and, just even to apply to other things, because you start digging in on stuff that maybe is not your forte. Like Lee's always been real good with the drum program should be, when I was talking about dynamics and stuff earlier, and I'm better in my mind with not over Lee, but just better, more comfortable with the tonality instruments and filling little holes and harmony and stuff like that. So I feel like we have made a good team.
I'm just thinking about, and I won't say the artist's name, but like the difference of like, oh, he knows what he wants. And if you have to direct someone or anything, to another artist that you're friends with, that you're like, great friends, he's pulled a knife on me twice. I'm picturing you producing him going, no, let's try.
Yeah, let's try it without the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pulled a knife and guns. Wow. Yeah, but I was never scared. I told him he was the only friend that I had that would either shoot me or take a bullet for me. I don't know if he'd shoot himself for me.
Somewhere for that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's some characters out there. We've all seemed to gravitate towards each other over the years.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's our style. I think for us, we've been lucky because to be in the career we were in, of course, radio before digital, radio guys weren't always the most welcome guys. And
they're a bunch of douchebags.
Well,
usually.
that's they're annoying, and not that we're not. But we just don't, we don't
shimmy,
care about
shake.
that stuff, and we just enjoy kind of hanging out with people that we like.
Yeah.
And so I think we've been lucky because we have gravitated to people like you and Lee and these other people we're friends with in the business because we're not starstruck, we don't care, and they like that we don't make them feel weird and we don't act like stupid idiots most of the time.
Well, shit, we'd hang out off the air on there.
Yeah.
As soon as we got to town, we were all ready to go. So yeah, I think this is awesome. Joining forces and getting to do some more of this stuff, and not where you're not pinned down, have to get off the air for commercials immediately and stuff. You can just shoot the breeze.
Yeah.
Sometimes you forget these things are on.
Yeah, those are the best moments.
Yeah. My fiance, she was on a podcast recently and decided to tell all.
Ooh.
And I told her, she says, "Is there anything off limits?" I was like, "No, I don't care." So we listened to her episode, and I kept looking at her like, "Ooh, pretty brave, pretty brave."
She is telling all.
I said, I said, "I don't care about saying crazy stuff about us." I said, "It's just you not have a job any longer if your boss
She really told
boss hears it, So she called the girl and goes, "Well, maybe take that story out, and that one, and that one, and that one." And that one. And she's like, she goes, "You just want to redo it?" Because she's got a great personality and great sense of humor, so it was very entertaining. But she started picturing her boss, and she's probably going, "You're probably right."
Well, you get caught up in the moment, and you're having a good time, and people are telling stories, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, whoops.
Next thing you know, you're in Mexico and a pineapple's involved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's the moment.
People breaking plates over their own head. And
Things happen.
guys like Rob Hatch fishing out the pineapple out of the pool, the flat pancake pineapple.
There's that
The awkward silence after it.
How do we segue?
Yeah, I was like, "Rob, don't touch that pineapple."
You better put on some gloves. You don't want to get near that.
Oh, Isla Harris, that place is great.
You came straight from the airport coming here. How many dates a year are you doing? Where are you playing?
I'm only doing like 60 or 70 now.
Only.
No, I'm grateful. We used to do 200, especially with doing the radio shows. It'd be gone 285 days a year sometimes. So 60's nothing. I mean, it feels like a really good balance.
Does anyone ever not in the business? We dealt with this in like even San Diego and Knoxville and places we've been where the DJs and the programmers are all like, "Oh, he can't come do a charity show. It'll be fun." And we're like, you realize they have no life. I mean, like, when did you in your career learn to be able to say like, "No, I can't. I need some time"?
Never did.
Really?
Yeah. And what sucks is then instead of being that person that you feel like they could always count on, then it gets like, "Oh, he'll come do it," and your time's not worth anything anymore. And I just thought, well, if I'm off, I'll just go do it. Yeah, I think Lee and I mean, we were some of these shows I do 8 years in a row.
Wow.
Like a lot of the St. Jude stuff was, was country music, obviously waves that flag proudly. And, but yeah, because I became friends with everybody at the label. So they would bypass the manager and just call me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and you don't want to be the guy to say no,
or if they would say no, then they would just call me anyway. So then I'm just like, they'll be like Thanksgiving Day, and they're like, "Hey, you're on this parade." And I was like, "I told you," I said, "my grandpa's about to die." And I said, "This could be my last holiday with him." And they're like, "Well, we'll just try to find someone to cover it for you." I'm like, I never said I would.
Watching your grandpa?
I said, "Don't worry, Grandpa, my buddy."
You just stay with you.
Easton Corbin's going to be spending Thanksgiving with you. But no, they said cover for you for the show. But I was like, how could it be covering for me if I never said I could do it? I said every day of the year is yours, except for can I not have Thanksgiving Day and Christmas maybe? And so, no. Wow. So I said, then I'd go, okay, if you go, I'll go. Be away from your family too. Seem to dampen it sometimes, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, when I think, and we learned this, we just had to, or at least I'd never really thought about it. When somebody says they're doing 60 or 70, 60, 70 dates, maybe people think, well, that's not even that much. But then you think about the travel that goes on both sides of those days and everything else. We were talking to, I think Dina Carter was talking about it. She said she was doing around that same number, but it still puts you out there a good part of the year.
Yeah, and I still love it. You're kind of, we're all road dogs, but the only bad thing about the 280 plus is it just flies by. You're like, whoa, there went 10 years.
Yeah.
The funniest thing recently in these meet and greets, I've had 3 different people come up to me in the last few weeks and say, "Man, you're like one of my favorite 90s country singers." I'm like, I was in grade school. I was like, how do you think of a 90s country singer?
It's a lot, a-hole.
Multiple times. And I was just like, even my fiance's stepdad said it the other day, and he didn't mean it, obviously. He was just saying something kind, but I was going like, where are they getting this? I mean, even after, I didn't come out to 2010, so there's a whole other decade in there. Past the 90s, I wasn't even part of.
It's funny, though, and I think it comes back to that meme where people say, I don't care what you say, 1990 was 10 years ago. They've locked in a time in their mind, and they forget, because I don't like to think about, I was like, I love the 80s. 40 years ago.
I think that's what I'm going to start saying is us 80s country singers.
Yes. You remember Desert Rose Band? I opened for them a couple of times.
But the 90s was a good, good to be associated with, I guess. With
sure, it's a good place to be.
Yeah, I was going to say
music.
it's pre-bro country.
Yeah.
And that's what they're associating you with is pre-bro country.
Yeah,
Which is great. And of course, now, I mean, that 90s country sound for a lot of folks is coming back, and it's hot with the younger people. So to be thought of in that way is nice.
Well, remember, so when 80s rock rolled out, and Nirvana hit the scene, everyone's like, oh, 80s rock sucks. Time is good to music. And after enough time, all those people because when you're a kid, no one thinks about what's cool or that's not tough, or they just have the nostalgia from it. So when they become adults, then it's cool again. And you start hearing it all. And
I always thought there was a song in that. Kenny Rogers used to always say, I hope to hang around long enough to be cool again. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
It's cool.
And then there's those rare bands, Rolling Stones, obviously, you can't even count them. They're just a thing on their own. But I think about talking about heavy metal and rock from the 80s. There's Iron Maiden, who had their greatest success in the 80s, but still, I mean, they just put out an album last year that still is great. And, I look at those guys and go, man, they're well into their 60s, still making this kind of music. It's crazy.
And I just heard some new music from Billy Gibbons.
Oh.
I was blown away. Just so good. I mean, the guitar just sounds like a 23-year-old just came to town. That's a freak of nature, and his voice, everything sounded really good.
That's cool when folks like that have been there, done that, can still, because a lot of these folks lose touch. It's like I was talking to an artist that's a Hall of Famer, but he was like, I don't understand why people won't take my songs I'm writing, and these are great songs. And it's like, well, dude, you're trying to write for the common man, and you've been a millionaire since you were 20, and you're 65 now, and been on the road, and
haven't hurt for much.
Yeah,
there is some truth to that. Some people that are famous too long that they lose touch with.
Yeah,
I've seen it too. I've just been like, whoa, it sucks. We can't say names.
Yes.
Out of respect.
We could, but
yeah, we don't want.
I just don't want to do it in the middle of a cornfield because I'm liable to be buried out there.
We don't want no beef. We don't want no beef.
So that's in a casino. I don't want to be
exactly.
a baseball bat out there somewhere.
Well, man, it's so good to see you and catch up with you. You don't age, by the way.
I was going to say, what the hell?
Well, if you just gradually get fatter, it keeps your wrinkles. No, since I just got in, like you said, from Florida this morning, and oh my God, we celebrated a little bit. So I think I got an extra 10 pounds on that's going to be gone by tonight.
Just all booze weight.
Yeah. Yes, that's
been there. Well, man, it's great to see you, Jerrod. And
I love you guys.
Thank you. I
would
love you too. Hope to see you very soon. Hope to hear. I can't wait to hear this new thing with Lee and what you guys are going to put together and what you got going on.
We're to plan it for you.
Oh, man, thanks.